Maine actually has a puffin population thanks to one determined researcher who hatched a plan more than 50 years ago.
So his idea was to take newly hatched puffins from Newfoundland and bring them back to eastern Egg Rock. It's an island off the coast of Maine right here, where they had once lived, but over the years they'd been killed off by predators, including humans. It was a wild idea at the time, but Stephen Kress thought maybe if they grew up on the island, they'd come back to it as adults and keep breeding.
I spoke with Kress about the so-called Project Puffin and the years he probably could have given up but didn't.
After about the first 4 years, when none of the puffins came back, I was starting to, wonder for sure.
Every summer for those first 4 years, Stephen Kress and a team of researchers planted themselves on eastern Egg Rock, along with a new batch of pufflings taken from Canada's population, kept them safe and watched them fledge, never knowing if they'd return to the island.
Because normally puffins are colonial birds, it would take a very brave puffin to land on an island all by itself. So my think around that was to try to put some decoys on the island to give them the impression there were other puffins there. Eventually, I even played recordings of puffins. And eventually, I also put mirrors up to give the puffins something to look at that would move. They did land almost immediately. We had our first sighting within days of putting up the decoys.
What was that feeling like when you first saw one coming back to the island?
Well, it was like super exciting because there have been so many critics and naysayers that said this was never going to work. It was a total miracle in my mind, because what this meant was that the chicks had learned that Egg Rock was their home, and they had, at least a few of them, had remembered that. There's thousands of islands in Maine alone. So the puffins had to remember exactly how to get back to Egg Rock. And so a few of them did, and that meant that maybe more would do, and that was the first signs of hope.
As one of the most successful rebuilds of a bird colony, Project Puffin hasn't just rekindled a population in Maine. Kress says it's also become an important training ground.
There's about almost 1,000 young biologists that have been trained now at Eastern Egg Rock over the last 50 years, and many of them are starting their own projects. Some of them have had whole careers of their own that were sparked by this experience. So that's kind of the new way I see Egg Rock and the other restored colonies on the Maine coast, places to inspire the next generation of biologists.
So 51 years into this project, it sounds like you still believe this is just the beginning.
This is a new way of thinking. It's a new way of thinking about the stewardship of the planet and how people have a responsibility to take care of life on Earth. We can't assume that nature will take care of all these things, because we have such a profound effect on the nature of this planet.
Despite incredible growth in the colony, without the teams of researchers who come back each summer, Kress says Maine's puffin population would easily be wiped out again by predators like gulls and eagles. So the project presses on. Kress is no longer involved, but he remains hopeful for its future.
This hands-on, active approach, that was the big surprise. And it works so wonderful that many other people are using these methods around the world. I know of about 800 other projects in many countries, helping about 1/3 of the world's seabirds now, the seabird species. And it's not just about the seabirds. These rich ocean spots that the seabirds are showing us, they're also important for fish, for sea turtles, for marine mammals, for all the wildlife that people care about, that should be concerned about.
And as for what people can do to help, Kress suggests being aware of your impact on the planet, how much plastic you're throwing away that will end up in the ocean, how much carbon you are off-putting. Really, really interesting conversation.
What a conversation. And I was just commenting to you 51 years ago to think that project is still living.
I asked him too. I was like, so many people I think would have walked away after 4 years. And he was like, I had to prove the naysayers wrong.
Right.
And it worked.
And it worked. And the mirror idea.
Yeah.
So you could see some movement from
really
the decoys.
creative
Great
stuff.
idea.